last night at midnight, we saw the brand new 007 Skyfall.
Yep, we certainly did, which we don't usually do midnight premieres.
No, there's a reason why we don't do them, and that's why I'm really fucking tired today. It's just staying up way too late for a 2.5 hour movie that was badass, by the way, and really made up for that Quantum of Solace movie, which is probably the worst 007 movie. Not a bad movie, but as far as 007 goes, it's not the best.
My least favorite would probably have to be the last Pierce Brosnan one.
Die Another Day.
Yeah, that's
I
probably
like
my
that
least
one way
favorite.
more than Quantum of Solace, but
I mean,
I don't know.
Quantum of Solace wasn't a masterpiece either, but yeah.
But yeah, but no, this new one was fantastic. I actually really liked it a lot. It felt,
Mm-hmm.
for once, out of the Daniel Craig ones, it actually felt like a classic Bond movie more than kind of feeling like a brand new, kind of. I mean, it is a reboot, but
Well, this one they kind of ended on a note. But we'll work our first off. If you're a big Bond fan or you like Bond a little and you like the retro Bond, turn the podcast off, go watch the movie, then come back to this, because we're gonna actually spoil the fuck out of the movie. I know we always spoil it, but
well,
there's
that's the
actually
whole
there's some
point of the
things.
podcast is about two guys talking about a movie after they
I
saw
know
it.
that. I
We're
know.
not a review.
I know that, but I'm saying there's some like twist in the movie I legitimately did not see coming.
No, yeah.
Some like to things like shout out to Bond fans. I'm not nearly as big of a Bond fan as you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Bond, but
Spent my whole life revolving around Bond.
yeah, what introduced me to Bond was actually GoldenEye for N64. That's where I first got into 007.
GoldenEye, good game.
I came in a little late for so um but this movie has a lot of like classic Bond to it, and that's it seems kind of like all the other two were kind of working the way up to this. Cause I thought Casino Royale was pretty good.
No, Casino Royale is pretty good. It's one of those movies. I guess it's like as a Bond fan, I just kind of
Hmm.
wish instead of being like a reboot, because I'm just not a big fan of reboots. I wish it was
Hmm.
more of a prequel. I think that would have been way cooler.
Hmm.
But I mean, it is a really good movie though.
Yeah, and this one almost sets it up for being like, even though this is still a new series, it's a it ultimately sets it up for okay, it's going to be more of a classic Bond type of vibe because a lot of things you associate with classic Bond are back in this movie, or at least works its way into it at least by the end of it.
Yeah.
There's go ahead.
All right, now you continue.
Like there's the girl from 28 Days Later, which I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she somehow she got hotter over the last eight
Wait, who was
years.
the girl from 28 Days Later?
The black chick.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that was the chick from 28 Days
I
Later.
didn't remember who the chick from 28 Days Later was. I thought it was a little girl for some reason.
No,
I
there's
didn't
the
know there
little
was a
there's the
black
little
chick in
girl.
28 Days Later.
Yeah. Um, and what we and she's in the movie. She's not really in the movie a whole lot. She's just this agent that she's in the beginning. She's on a mission with Bond
She shoots Bond
by accident.
because she's a shitty shot, but
And then what ends up happening is she's just kind of working the office. Like, yeah, I'm suspended from the field for a little while. It kind of happens. And, she kind of comes in and she has, like, some funny words with Bond. And then we get to the end of the movie. She's, I never actually got your real name. She's like, Penny. It's like, oh,
Moneypenny.
shit. Yeah. You don't really see that coming at all.
No, you didn't. So I think probably because she's black too. I'm not gonna say that, but I mean, like that kind of like you don't think it. You
Yeah.
see like, oh, she's black, and it just that doesn't cross your mind that she's Moneypenny for some reason, just because.
But they
Yeah.
also made Felix black, too. So, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of black people in new Bond movies.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And then another thing is because Judy Dench, she kind of carried over from, even though Casino Royale was a reboot, Judy Dench carried over as M still, playing the
Hmm.
same role she played since Goldeneye. And in this one, this is another big shocker. She actually dies at the end of the movie, which
Yeah.
I did not see coming. And the whole time, Ralph Fiennes, the guy that played he played the main Nazi in Schindler's List, and he played Voldemort in the Harry Potter films.
I mean, the M like I mean, throughout the movie they kind of mentioned like you almost like they mentioned she was gonna retire no matter what. She just was just gonna finish this last job. But yeah, dying I didn't expect. I mean, I knew this was probably gonna be her last movie just for the fact that they mentioned that in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dying they kind of threw it off, and then they go back to M being a man again at the end.
Yeah, because Ralph Fiennes actually, once she dies, Ralph Fiennes comes in. He's like, "Should I call you M?" He's like, "Yes, that works fine," or something like that. Something a little bit more clever than that.
And yeah,
But
in the very end, it's like they're in like the same office that Bond and all the old Bond movies that they always went to.
they use the Aston Martin from Goldfinger, don't they? In
Yeah,
the
there's
movie?
the Aston Martins in the movie, which that's been in a couple of ones, but like that's kind of cool. That was the main Bond movie or car. They didn't have any other kind of Bond one. At least they didn't have a Ford in this one. I always thought that was fucking retarded in Casino Royale. I'm sorry, but Bond driving a Ford, no, unless like he like hijacked it or something like that, I don't expect Bond to drive a Ford.
I can't, I'm not gonna lie. There's I have trouble remembering all the cars Bond drives. Like, oh yeah, it's a nice car that I can't afford. There we go. So
They mostly always like either Aston Martins or Lotuses or something, and BMWs
yeah,
like the
BMWs.
Pierce Brosnan movies.
This one they're destroying those BMWs. Is the part when they're like
No,
getting
those are
on
the VWs.
the VW. Oh, I said yeah, you're right. VWs. My bad.
Well, that part was kind of funny. It's like, but Bond just to capture this person like on a train he was chasing, he gets into like an earth mover and just takes like the backhoe part of it and just grabs the thing, ripping the hood or like ripping the roof off of this train, and like all the people inside are panicking.
Yeah.
And he's driving over all these cars. I just think it's kind of funny when you see stuff like that, like
Yeah.
how much money he's just, or how much damage he's just done just to get one person that he doesn't even fucking get.
Then like it's kind of funny because it's almost kind of like it's. I call this part like Bond as fuck because as soon as he runs across this crane and jumps in there after this whole back of the train gets ripped off, he stops for a second, straightens his coat, and keeps on walking. Like, no,
Yeah.
like it's not a big deal.
Well, I just destroyed like a couple $1,000 worth
Yeah.
of shit.
I
Not
was kind
more.
of watching this. I'm like, for once, it's not the Americans going around chasing some robot through another city.
I'm destroying shit.
Yeah, for once, it's like someone that's not American destroying this other country.
That seems to happen with Bond, though. He still seems to like cause a lot of havoc as he goes through places. He probably does more like bad than he does good, kind of one of those kind of things.
He'll take the heat off like Jason Bourne and all that. So
But no, that movie was really cool though. I really liked at the end they had this awesome kind of like shootout, and it almost kind of had like that sort of a. I'm drawing a blank. My brain's just like so dead right now.
remind me of a little bit. I don't mean this in a bad way. Kind of like just the grittiness, almost kind of like a Call of Duty game
I guess like a Call of Duty. I was thinking of like Assault on Precinct 13, sort of kind of,
kind of situation.
where
Yeah.
like, and they kind of give Bond this like sort of origin, which was kind of more like a Batman origin, because now he's like
Mhm.
this orphan and his parents died, and he had like this semi mansion, not nearly as big as Batman's, and then
Mhm.
for some reason he also had kind of like a butler, but this guy was more like a caretaker of the house.
Mhm.
It really did have this Batman feel towards it, but that's not a bad thing. If you're gonna copy anything or use any kind of reference, use Batman.
And we're gonna come back to the Batman thing in a little while too at the villain. But no, I like that whole scene at the end because that was something. I mean, what I ultimately like about this movie is it felt like a classic Bond film. At the same time, though, it wasn't afraid to try new things. Because
Yeah, had some fresh stuff.
Quantum of Solace. I mean, coming from someone who's not a diehard Bond fan, it seemed to kind of like almost deviate too much away from Bond in times.
Well, that one
And
just felt like it was just like so much action in it and very little story.
mhm,
To the point where it's just like, Bond movies, like, they have actions and the action scenes are really big, but they're not supposed to be like a constant. They're supposed to be like almost like half action, half story.
yeah.
And that one was just like every 5 minutes there was some big action scene.
hmm But this one though, I thought it was cool because that the end usually the final battle of a Bond film is usually taking place like in someone's secret lair or like just something like around those lines or maybe even like the MI6 building or something like that being attacked. But no, it's just I like how simplistic it was. It was
Yeah,
this
simple.
old it was this old
It was like
mansion.
rugged. And yeah, it was out in like Scotland area. Just kind of like, it was just out there in the middle of like, nowhere in a sense. And that kind of made it kind of cool. It just almost had almost like a Western feel, like a modern day Western.
That's what I kind of Plus something that almost it's like a lot of the little things they do to get the Spawn across. Like they kind of show how little sentimental attachment he has through things because there's a part where like his old caretaker hands him like, well, we don't have very many guns left. All we have this. It's your father's rifle, and he looks at it. It's just this old like that wasn't a rifle. It was a shotgun. It was an old double barrel shotgun, and the bad guy at the end of the movie comes in with this full this full team of mercenaries just attacking this mansion. And they booby trap it in really cool ways.
And make it kind of like Home Alone.
Yeah, a very violent, death-oriented version of Home Alone. Yeah,
Yeah.
but well, just ways that I'll actually finish the thing about the sentimental attachment real quick. Then I'll jump on the death traps and all that. Like because for a while throughout this whole battle, he's using his father's shotgun, which has his father's initials on it. The second he gets a chance to grab an automatic rifle, he just chucks it aside and grabs the automatic rifle like he doesn't even fucking care.
Yeah.
It's the little things like that. They just show how. And then like right before the building explodes, which he goes through a secret underground tunnel, he says, "I always hated this place." He just goes underneath. He doesn't fucking care. And that's pretty cool. But they had what was cool is they had all these little elaborate death traps, which I never really thought of, and they had like because by this point M is actually tagging along. It's Bond, the caretaker, and M.
Strange enough, M is pretty much like the Bond chick of the movie. It sounds really weird to say that, but that's because
That's what
like
I was thinking. Yeah.
he bangs a couple chicks, but they're just like quick bangs and they're over and you never see him again. But M's like the like pretty much in a sense she's the Bond girl. It sounds really weird saying that, but
Mhm.
because she's in the movie like mostly the whole time,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
she's tagging along with them and or them as in Bond and
Bond.
Alfred.
Bond and old Scottish Alfred. So,
Yeah.
and there's a part where when they're setting the death traps, they actually I thought this was so cool. Like they were filling like baggies with shotgun shells and nuts and bolts, and they wired them to a
Filled light bulbs up.
yeah, light bulbs, and they wired them to the light bulbs. When they flip, so when a bunch of guys walk in the room, she flipped on the lights. They explode. It's just like a shotgun, like debris and whatnot, just goes everywhere, killing everybody in the room.
Well, yeah, you can also there's things really simple too. You can fill a light bulb up with gasoline and do
Mhm.
that, and it'll
Yeah.
explode and have shrapnel.
Well, I thought that was cool. You don't see that very much in a Bond film.
No, you don't see that very much. Yeah, too much. Yeah, not a Bond movie. I just thought it was cool, just that kind of like set up the
Hmm.
traps and like it's just like three against like 15 or so.
Yeah. I just liked how like badass the ending was, and at the same time how simplified it was.
Hmm.
And then let's actually talk about real quickly. Let's talk about the villain because I know we both have
Well, the cool
feelings.
thing about the villain is like he finally felt more like a real Bond villain because Bond villains kind of have to be like that slightly over the top in my opinion. Like that's kind of what makes them really cool, you know.
Which the last two, even though I like Casino Royale, the last couple just seemed like, oh, he's an evil billionaire who finances terrorism. How about that?
Oh, I just feel like you don't remember characters when they don't have a little bit more character to them. When they're just kind of simple, and when they try to make them that realistic style, it's just like we didn't go to the movies to see realism. If I want to see realism, I look out the window, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. They finally actually brought back more of a real Bond villain to the movie.
But at the same time, though, I couldn't help but get. I'm not saying this just because I'm a huge Batman fan. This goes back to like we mentioned earlier, how this movie took cues from Batman.
He felt
If
like the Joker.
yeah, he like Javier Bardem, or how do you pronounce his last name, is the guy who was the hitman from No Country for Old Men, and he was also in the movie. He played the paraplegic guy in like A Sea Within or A Sea Inside, whatever that movie was.
Huh.
Um, he reminded me a lot of the Joker, like not totally like ripping off the Joker, but I mean he was a little like fucked in the head at the same time a genius. He'd be kind of walking around with kind of like hunched over, be tilting his head in weird ways, and just
No, yeah. And the part that really reminded me of the Joker more than that, like this is where I finally went like, no, that really reminds me of the Joker. Is he gets himself caught
yeah, that part.
at MI6, and then that was like his plan. And he's kind of like also a hacker too. That's kind of like the main
Mm-hmm.
thing he sort of is too.
But you never really see him at a computer.
Excluding that one part where he first tells the rat story to Bond.
Yeah, he just
He's got
clicks
he's
his
got a
mouse.
computer there, and his
Yeah,
computers are all kind of like out in the open, or like they're. It's like instead of having like actually cooling systems, he just has them like open. I'm like, doesn't that collect
yeah,
a lot of dust? I saw it, like there's gotta be a lot of dusting involved in that
yeah. He had his own little island that was more or less abandoned, which I thought was pretty cool.
because he sent like a scare letter to like
Hmm.
the Asians.
Yeah, which this movie didn't go to very many places. It opened up in like what Turkey? It opened up in
Well,
Turkey,
it kind of still. I thought it was kind of cool because it still did go to. Like, it went to about like
three
you know,
places.
yeah, yeah, it, like had Turkey, and then it went to then they went to Shanghai.
They went back to England for
Then
the
it went back
majority
to
of the movie
England,
in
and then they
Scotland.
went to Scotland. So I mean,
Uh
it's
huh.
still pretty cool travel, and I kind of like because it had the Asian element because that's one
Yeah.
of my favorite types of Bond movies. Whenever Bond goes to Asia.
But from England to Scotland, that's not like a big jump. That's like going from like
No,
California to Oregon.
I guess
But
because you just don't see like Bond like go out to like the country like that, and I think
yeah,
that's
that was cool though. I'm not complaining. I just thought it was kind of cool how it was like more of like I don't know, just how simplified it was pretty awesome. And this film I thought did different. I think this is definitely the best of the Daniel Craig Bond films.
I think by far.
Yeah.
It was like they really got their act together in making this movie.
Which and then like Q looks like we said this earlier. He looks kind of like a hipster in this movie.
Yeah, he does kind of like Q's kind of hipster. And I guess my only complaint to this is that since they introduced Q, I'm like, oh, awesome. Well, Bond's gonna get some cool gadgets or something like that. And the only gadget that this Q can come up with is a fucking gun that only works for Bond's handprints and a little fucking radio transmitter. That's the best of his fucking abilities when it comes to making up gadgets.
Well, he's young. He's got some.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, he can like sit there and like hack a computer, but he
Well,
gets hacked himself. So
well, they even acknowledge that in the movie because like Bond once he sees Q, he's all like, "Are you serious? He can't believe this kid is actually Q." And at
mhm.
the same time, he's all like, when he hands him his equipment, he's all like, "Oh, geez, a gun and a radio. It's Christmas." He's like, "What were you expecting? a pen that shot a missile or something like
This
that.
is the exploding pen.
Exploding pen, yeah.
But still, that's what that's what I was supposed to. If there's any like, that's like a light complaint, and I guess that's just a Bond fan complaint. Just like I kind of wish there was at least something a little bit more, because the gadgets is kind of like that's one of the main things of Bond.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the last two didn't really have any of that in it. They focused more on just the regular action. So I was expecting at least just one thing, something.
We might get something like that.
Fucking in 2012, we have less shit than we had like in the last 40 years.
In like 73, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where the fuck's my Moonraker laser or something like that?
I'm sure, or like the compact copter that he used, and you only live twice.
Yeah. That thing has a funny name. I can't remember what it is right now.
I can't remember either, but yeah.
It's like the Little Nelly. That's what it's called.
It was something like Little Nelly.
Yeah.
It was like, did you bring Little Nelly with you?
Yeah.
Did you bring Little Nelly with you? There you go. Yeah.
But other than that, though, that was about my only complaint. That's really my only complaint in the movie is just that, and that's not really like a full-on complaint. That doesn't really go against the movie. It's just,
It preference as a Bond fan.
Yeah, you just kind of sometimes you just kind of expect a little bit more out of Q.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, though, that guy actually did a really good job as playing Q, and I think it'd be good, next one too.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he has inventions. Hopefully he fucking put some time and effort this time into making something cooler.
Yeah. Hopefully the next one has that.
And then the one thing good is like, because I know they advertised that
The
Heineken
one
thing.
Oh yeah.
So heavily, and my favorite part about that is like the Heineken thing didn't really take over the movie. Like it was used more like almost like comedy.
Yeah.
The Heineken. Because there's one part where like after Bond gets like shot.
Well, it's
in the
funny to
beginning-
us. It's funny to us.
Well, I guess it's just funny in general. It's because it's like dark comedy, but like once Bond gets shot off, and nobody seems to go look for Bond's body or anything. Whatever, he's fucking dead. He got shot. Like, so he's just kind of like hanging out like at this beach and stuff, and just drinking all the time. And he's like fucking a chick, and he's just drinking a Heineken. He just looks like so depressed.
He's going like a 5 o'clock shadow and all that. Just like fuck it.
Becomes like a super alcoholic.
There's a part where you see him. There's a part they sort of showed in the trailer. He's like, he has like a scorpion on his hand, and like everyone's all shocked. He's drinking with a scorpion on his hand. He takes the shot, then quickly like slams the scorpion underneath, and then everyone's all cheering. You show him like he's still there, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, ordering like.
He fucking pours the drink himself.
Yeah. But then he sees like the MI6 got attacked, so then that forces him to go back to England.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm glad that Heineken thing didn't take over. I was kind of afraid there for a second.
And they're saying for a long time, maybe this applies to later Bond films, but they're saying that a Heineken is his official drink, and you saw him drink a Heineken once. And then what would happen is he'd walk past the Heineken billboard at some point.
And another character drank a Heineken in the movie too.
Or if they're at a bar, you saw some Heinekens in a fridge, just something like that.
Well, it's kind of like ever since Columbia or Sony pretty much bought up MGM, like every fucking like electronical piece of equipment in there was Sony. Sony.
I noticed that. Yeah.
I was kind of like just looking at how much Sony shit was in that movie.
Before the movie even showed, they had like a Sony tablet commercial. It was using Bond in it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like they had everybody had Veos. All the TVs were Sony's. Any monitor was Sony. Surprised Bond didn't fucking like run across a PS3 or something.
007. If you pull up this PS Vita and push, that's like
yeah, like you can control your Aston Martin with it.
Yeah, through your PS Vita. Yeah. No, but and then there's regarding that. No, but they actually show him drink a martini. He doesn't say the line "shaken, not stirred," but he actually
you see it happen. The shaking part.
Yeah.
When he's in Shanghai, I guess.
And they said something like, "Yeah, there's no more martinis after this," which I don't know. I'm hoping that's just a bad internet rumor, but we'll see what happens in the next two Bond films.
I can imagine getting rid of that. Like, I don't know. That's like a staple of Bond.
Yeah. And then, well, actually, one thing I want to jump back to that part where he's in like that Chinese casino that's ran by the crime lord. I thought that was kind of cool because this scene almost seemed like something you'd see back like in a Sean Connery or Roger Moore, or actually nearly any Bond film before Pierce Brosnan, which is there's the little like area with the kimono dragons around, and he was finding out that seems like something kind of like Roger Moore in the alligator pit. Or like the Shark Tank or something like that.
Yeah.
I liked that. I mean, it wasn't like a huge, like over the top thing, but it was just something that we haven't seen really in a Bond film in a while. Just these you have to fight off these animals that are gonna kill you.
Yeah, because like they fall down to a pit, and then the Komodo dragon gets like the guy that Bond was fighting.
Yeah.
But no, that was cool. I like that too. like when they, because a lot of times now in movies, like Bond movies, it almost I guess might feel like sort of like stereotypical, but I kind of like when when you see Asia in a Bond movie and it's just like it really feels like Asia, like the way you picture it, like in your mind from an American perspective. Because nowadays, whenever in other movies when they go to Asia, it just feels like I don't know, it doesn't look that much different than any
Well,
other
they
country.
showed the fancy side of Asia. They didn't have any. They didn't have like peasants running around with rice hats or nothing like
Well, I
that.
wasn't more talking about that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but nowadays, just like they go to Asia, it's like, well, they could have went
Well,
to fucking Australia. I would not
yeah.
have known the difference.
He
So the
went.
fact there's a bunch of Asians walking around.
He went to Shanghai, and that was pretty cool. Just seeing, that whole scene there. Because the thing with the last 007 film is, like you said, it was just action after action after action. This has like pacing in it. This is pretty good
Yeah,
with the action pacing, and they have the suspense, the build up, the filling in of the characters, and it's a little while because I mean, last couple Bond films they introduced the bad guy pretty quickly. This one it took a little while before we actually saw or knew who the villain was.
exactly. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. No, that this movie though, I was really impressed. I'm really glad to see Bond going in the right direction. Because I'm always excited to see a Bond movie, but you never really know how it's going to turn out nowadays.
Craig is contracted for 2 more films, so we'll see what happens with that. But
So
yeah.
yeah, well yeah, as long as the movies are made well, it's like
Mm-hmm. Because I'll be honest, I mean, some people may disagree with me. I don't think I've ever seen really a bad Bond
no,
per
there's no
se.
such thing as a bad Bond movie.
Well, I mean, like by bad Bond, I mean a bad Bond
Oh,
actor.
but bad Bond actor,
Because
yeah.
I think everybody does. I think every Bond I've seen has had something to
Yeah,
contribute.
every single one of them, I think. Yeah, there's no such thing as a bad Bond.
Yeah.
But no, even like the movies itself. I mean, even the ones that like there's a couple like mediocre Bond movies, but they're still not bad movies. I mean, it's almost like that saying that people have where it's like, the worst Clint Eastwood movie is still better than a lot of other movies.
I think that's more of our saying.
No, I heard that from a lot of people though. That's not my
Really?
saying.
Oh, that's good.
I heard that. I think it's older people. Keep in
Yeah.
mind, older people that love Clint Eastwood still, unlike the younger generation that just knows of Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
But then what other trailers were? We had like another Django Unchained.
Which that was the same. That was the first trailer they
Was
just
that the first
reshowed. That
trailer
was the
again?
first trailer.
They keep flipping and flopping them, so I don't know which ones. I don't know if I see a new one or it's the same one.
Well, every time I see that trailer, it just makes me want to see that movie more, even if it's the same trailer.
And then
The,
they had the Last Stand. And that was that one a little bit different.
that was a new trailer.
That was cool. Yeah, that one almost made the movie feel like it was almost a different style movie compared to the other trailers I've seen
Made,
for it.
made it look more like an action comedy.
Well, I guess that, but it showed all these locations that they didn't show ever
Mm-hmm.
before. Like the other one just made it feel like it was almost like a western. It took place in like a small town,
Mm-hmm.
and this one showed it taking like all these other places too. You're like, oh, I didn't know that was even in the movie.
I think it still will primarily take place in this small town.
Well, yeah,
It's
but I mean,
just,
like
yeah,
this trailer showed more stuff. I'm just saying.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
and then they showed This Is 40, which is the Knocked Up spinoff.
Oh, that looks fucking retarded. Oh, it's like one of those ones just like, oh, another stupid fucking comedy from Judd Apatow.
He has some good stuff here and there. I actually like some Apatow films, and I like Knocked Up, but I don't really think we need a spinoff about the couple. It's not Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl.
Yeah.
Because I like Paul Rudd, and this may even be a funny movie.
Okay,
It
I
just
think I
seems,
got Paul Rudd. I think sometimes he gets in kind of like okay movies, but like himself as an actor, he's not bad.
yeah. Well, he'll be back in Anchorman too, so I'll be good.
Okay.
But this movie though, I don't know. It just looks very kind of. It doesn't need to be made. Who knows? It might be. I'm guessing Judd Apatow had a script. He says, you know what? I already have these actors over here. I might as well just use them. So.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, they were funny characters and Knocked Up, but I did not really feel the need to see a movie that starred them. So
Hmm.
I guess we'll see what comes of that.
And then there was, I guess, the other trailer. There's Jack Reacher. Is that the Tom
Jack
Cruise one?
Reacher. I looked that up actually. That's apparently based on a book series.
I saw that when we went to Barnes and Noble last time or whatever.
Mhm.
There was some Jack Reacher books placed out in front.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. I like Tom Cruise kicking ass. I don't mind.
So we'll see what happens out of that. And then this.
It felt like there was less trailers on this movie than probably because it's a midnight one. They're like, we don't want to keep you here that long.
Yeah. Well, plus the same. I'm surprised how many people showed up to a midnight Bond film.
Well, because it feels like Bond's target. I always feel like Bond's target audience is about like ages 40 to 70, and those people don't go. Those people don't stay up that late to see a movie.
There's a few of them.
Yeah, and yeah, it was like we were there first, and then about 30 people were probably there. I'd say
Yeah,
25, 30, somewhere in that ballpark.
which ain't bad for a
And
Bond.
the cool thing about that though is there was no fuckers there. It was all people who were serious about Bond.
They weren't like talking or texting. The whole
They
fucking
didn't
movie.
just like like roll over from like Applebee's, like physically rolling like going, I need a place to sober up. Oh fuck, a move Bond. yeah,
That's what Avengers
fucking
was.
yeah. I
When I
get
went
it.
to the midnight
Well, I
premiere
feel
to
like people see
Avengers,
like a line and they go, "What the fuck's going on? Fucking concert for Peter Pan."
a concert to Peter Pan. Where does that come
That's just
from?
because they're so hammered, and they see people in like outfits and tights. They have no
Because when I'm
idea.
hammering, I'm like, I could go for some Peter fucking Pan right now.
They go, fuck that Peter Pan.
Take him right to Neverland. I'll show you Neverland, bitch.
So I was just glad to see that midnight premiere was. Yeah, I
I'll
didn't
make
expect.
the red man red. All right, last Peter Pan reference.
I
Okay.
didn't expect there like to be. I didn't expect there actually to be a 007 premiere. I just most I went to look up dates for Friday and it was like, oh, what do you know? Midnight.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's where it was.
fuck.
Expect you just call me, hey Ryan, it's midnight.
And
Oh, it
since
is.
there's daylight savings, it's really like it's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. You know, the fucking that movie was a long Bond movie. That was one of the longest Bond movies. I think it was almost about 2.5 hours long, and most Bond movies are only just a tad bit over 2 hours.
Yeah.
It didn't feel that long though. That was the funny thing about it though.
It went by pretty quick. It was a pretty good flick. And then like this wasn't a Bond. We didn't see the trailer for this at the theater, but it came out like roughly around the same day.
The World War Z trailer. Is that what the one you're talking about?
Yeah, unfortunately it is.
Uh, you think Brad Pitt can save anything? There sometimes comes a time when the pit's just not enough. That pit becomes a pit, a
Yeah.
hellish pit
Well,
that even Brad himself can't escape his own pit.
it seems that way. Poor Brad in his pit. No. The thing is, all right. I'm not gonna be one. I'm not one of those people who's like zombies can only walk. I'm not that person.
I'll be that person.
You'll be that person.
Because I feel that zombies can only walk because it's unrealistic that they run. Unless it's like 28 days later, but they're not zombies. So.
Coming from the guy who went to the midnight line for Left 4 Dead 2.
Well, actually, technically, it was Assassin's Creed, I guess, too. But Left 4 Dead, that's kind of different. Like in a video game, it's a little bit different. Like that's not like a story. I'm not going like, man, I can't wait to get the story out of Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah.
That's more just kind of fun,
Mhm.
Really, it's just fun violence. Really, is what that game is, and a lot of it.
Yeah. But
When it comes down to like like a movie, it's like I kind of like to see my zombie movies taken seriously.
no, I get you.
And running zombies is, unless it's like, I think it's fine. Like if you're gonna do a serious zombie movie, I don't think they should run. If you're gonna, I mean, like something like Zombieland, that's fine because it's kind of an action comedy horror, and whatever, that's fine for that style of movie. But for anything regular zombies, if you're trying to give me a serious story, don't make them run, or else I can't believe it. You've already lost
or
me
unless
there.
it's 28 days later, which they're more infected.
But
They're
that's
not so much zombies.
they're not zombies. That's like kind of like a thing of like the Ebola virus, like gone to the max.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with the movie. You haven't seen the trailer for it. I mean, okay. It's one of those things. They strictly use. I mean, we won't know until the movie comes out, but they strictly used this title to help sell tickets. Because I'm watching the trailer, I'm like, what the fuck? Because if you read this book, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like somebody who's just like, I'm not one of those people like, look, Transformers the cartoon really has a lot to say. I'm not being one of those guys, but really, World War Z does have a lot to say, and World War Z, the book, it tackles things that never really even cross your mind in a zombie apocalypse. Yeah, there's like, because what the book is, if you haven't read it,
It's pretty much the sequel to the Zombie Survival Guide.
which I'm not gonna lie, I never read Zombie Survival Guide.
So I read Zombie Survival Guide, and you read World War Z.
Well, all right. Well, generally talk about Zombie Survival Guide, and I'll fill in with World War Z.
Okay. Well, pretty much just what it is. It's
We'll do
like
the whole
it's
anthology.
somebody who really sat down and really thought out all this stuff of like how this is going to happen. If a zombie attack does happen, and it's not just the zombies you got to worry about. It's how to prepare. The government's also going to be a problem, and so is just regular people. It's really there's multiple ways this kind of affects the whole society.
That's ultimately what Z is about too, and what Z is though. It's more of a
Now, is he more of like a story?
It's sort of story based, but what it is
Because where like the other one's more like a guide, like a physical guide, like almost if you bought like the How to Survive in the Woods. It's like that, but with zombies.
It's not like that. What it is well, first off, it's written by Max Brooks, Mel Brooks' son, and he actually did some Just League Unlimited episodes.
Oh, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, but anyway,
somehow, some way, it's got to come around to Batman.
Yeah, it does. It's not an Old Man Orange podcast unless you say something regarding Batman, or unless you say back in the 90s. So anyway,
yeah, back in the 90s also goes back to Batman too. Everything revolves around
Batman. Yeah, it's like Batman's like number 23. Everything's linked to it somehow. So. But no, generally what it
Even
is
Jim Carrey's linked to it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get off of Batman and go back to the zombies.
Well, World War Z, it's generally Max Brooks himself as a character in the story, and he's a UN reporter going around and he's documenting interviews with different people, and each one's just an interview he has with somebody, and they're just talking about, and it ranges from like things like survival stories to people that were like manufacturing, like weapons to defeat zombies, how they were recycling water and using water and surviving and using resources, like what would happen to all this, and not just focusing in America either, focusing it originated in China, focusing on like China's like political landscape at the time, and then also leaning over to it goes all over the world and it jumps on almost every aspect, and it's such a good book. And then, I mean, it's very in depth, more in depth than you'd think a zombie story would be. And I'm not trying to bring zombie stories down, but a lot of times you just see zombie stories as oh, just some people trying to survive in like a warehouse or
Well, really,
whatever.
unless you're George A. Romero, like nobody really does a zombie movie like in a sense in a pretty sophisticated way. Because a lot of times you make zombies, they're gonna get somebody and they're gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's mostly how a lot of times zombie movies kind of come across. They almost become like these retarded movies. And that's the thing about zombies is it's a really great concept, and really one of the only things that actually, other than George A. Romero, I think he did it really good. I mean, he kind of has his own little versions of what zombies kind of are, but he does it good. But his Resident Evil, the video game series, and I mean more like the
Mm-hmm.
first three, because that's the rest of them kind of go off into becoming like something else too. But most people just don't know how to tell a good zombie story.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in the Zombie Survival Guide, I mean that's not really a story. But he knows like I mean he explains it like is the best you could possibly explain it.
Yeah, and another thing with like I said, it tackles on everything. Like, it tackles on pop culture. Like what would happen? Like there's like one interview where it's a guy who's a mercenary. And it's very well written. He's a mercenary who during once they call it the Great Panic. That's what they call the early stages of the zombie apocalypse of World War Z. And he says like pretty much what I became a more or less a very high paid security guard for some like rich guy who was a some kind of like celebrity consultant, and he was like mainly they went to like some private island out in the Caribbean, and he was like guarding them. He was running security, keeping an eye on things. And then he implies, he doesn't literally say celebrities' names, just, but to avoid lawsuit chase. He says, there's that one fucking redneck guy, the get it done or whatever the fuck he says.
Mm-hmm.
There's the stupid spoiled like whore with the little rat dog that was there. And just kind of like implies what celebrities. And then he has the story saying like, and generally they kept on like, they were treating like a reality TV show. Like they're there, there's cameras always on them, and then eventually fucking like peasants ended up coming and attacking the whole fucking place. So zombies became a problem. People became a problem because they had to stay in the fucking like camera's eye. So it was one of those things like the book is a really well done book, and it goes into areas I never even thought of during the zombie apocalypse. And
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend it. Now the thing is, if you don't have the time to read this book and listen to an audiobook or whatever, like just pick up a chapter and just skim through it, and then watch this trailer.
Well,
And
it's
it
not
looks
that long of a book, isn't it? Only like 300 pages or something like
it's like
that.
400, I think,
Oh,
something
okay.
around there. But no, you 300, 400, somewhere around there. The thing is though, you can just kind of skim through it or listen to a little bit of the audiobook and get a good vibe of what this thing's like. And then you watch the trailer. And I'm not trying to be this guy, but it looks nothing like it. It really
It
looks
looks
like
like a disaster movie because
looks like
you don't even really even see the zombies.
it looks like a Roland Emmerich film, really.
Well, yeah, I don't even want to bring down Roland Emmerich because I mean he's got a couple like okay movies, but I like the majority of his movies I actually do like because most people forget they're Roland Emmerich movies. Like I think that's the main thing.
The main ones I really like is like Patriot and
I like Patriot,
Stargate.
Stargate, Independence Day, and Universal Soldier. Those are all really good, but
No,
it
there's nothing
has like
bad.
that total
Oh,
disaster
Universal
movie
Soldier
look,
is good.
and I
Yeah.
don't know how. Yeah, and I don't know. It's just like I mean I know I guess a zombie movie technically sort of is like a disaster movie. It's like when it really well I guess it sort of is when it gets down to it. But this movie just I don't know. It just
You barely saw the zombies in the trailer. When they show the zombies, they're like a wave. That's what they are. There's like a wave of just zombies that run really fast, and they're like falling over each other and jumping over each other. And there's a part where you see there's like a wall, and they're like climbing over each other up this wall. Like they're like some kind of like
which
just
if you read like the Zombie Survival Guide, zombies can't crawl, can't climb.
Yeah,
They don't have the motor skills for that.
in World War Z, it gets across that they are your standard George A. Romero zombies. It
Well, I mean,
treats it
George A.
that way.
Romero's zombies they evolved, so like almost this goes to a
Mhm.
little bit more realistic thing because George A. Romero and like those ones, like after a while, the zombies were able to like have like almost like thoughts and
Mhm.
could manhandle things.
By like Land of the Dead or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually the third one, the Day of the Dead, when they started doing that.
Actually, Day of the Dead's the only one I haven't seen.
That one took for I have it on VHS if you want to watch it.
People tell me Day of the Dead's probably like one of the worst of his movies.
Well, because the main reason that movie had such a problem is because he just didn't get the budget that he wanted for it,
Mhm.
and it's just one of those movies. It's almost like too simple, but like you almost kind of want more to happen with it. I don't know. It's worth watching. It's not really an amazing movie. It's no Dawn of the Dead, and it's definitely no Night of the Living Dead. But that's okay though. Like I think as movies got farther on, like the Survival of the Dead, that was a really good one. You
Yeah.
watched that with me, right?
I watched Survival Dead.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
a good one.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought. But
Actually, I didn't see Diary of the Dead. I hear mixed things about that.
yeah, I've kind of heard too. I've always wanted to see that one. I was gonna see that one in theaters, and it was only there for a day in San Francisco. But back to
World War Z.
World War Z. I almost said Zombie Survival Guide, but yeah, World War Z. Which yeah, it's like I remember just in the Zombie Survival Guide though. It's like they explain all that stuff. It's like the zombies just don't have the motor skills. Like the only thing they really mainly have is they just have that drive to keep going until they literally fall to pieces.
Mhm.
You know?
And they just have really good hearing and really good eyesight. That's what they have.
Yeah, it's like their regular senses are kind of enhanced, but they don't have the motor skills. The motor skills is what they don't have. Like, they don't have like the like hand they can't climb a ladder, they can't go hand over hand, thinking things out like that, you know.
And the like World War Z, like I said, you read that book or just you don't even got to read a whole chapter. Just flip through it. The dialogue they use, the details they use, like this is a very well thought put together book. And then you see this trailer. I mean, who knows? Maybe the movie will be a fucking Academy Award winning movie when it comes out. I highly doubt that. But just going off the trailer, it was just like, what the fuck is this? Because I'm not gonna lie, I was looking forward to World War Z. I heard someone say they're deviating it away rather than being because what I assumed when I heard World War Z was gonna come out, I didn't think they'd get everything in there, but I assumed it would just be
You get the main concept down at least.
I thought it would just be like a series of short stories told by survivors or just different, just probably the best chapters of the book. I figured is what it would be.
They don't do those kind of movies anymore where they do like short story movies, but like it's in one movie, kind of like Twilight Zone or Creep Show. Like they should do more of those again. I think that's a really cool idea.
They got another Twilight Zone coming out.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't know what it's about. I don't know if it's doing that, but I just saw a thing that a Twilight Zone movie's coming out.
Because I just like that's really cool. Where you get a handful of directors together and you make short stories. And it's kind of cool if you get them like to intertwine with each other, kind of like four rooms.
That's what VHS is actually. VHS is like this movie. I didn't see it.
I've heard about that movie.
Everybody tells me about it, and I should see it, and I'm planning on it eventually. But it's like VHS spelled V-H-S, and it's apparently this movie about some guys that kind of like they're hired to go like rob some dude's house and find a VHS, and they stumble in there, and they're recording it, of course. They're recording it, and like there's this whole stack of VHSs. Like, all right, well, let's just watch them and see which one we have to find. So they're watching it. Each one is some weird horror incident going on. It's like a found footage type deal.
Oh, well, the found footage thing's always. I mean, that could be interesting. I'm not gonna say anything against the movie for not seeing it yet, but
the only two found footage films that really kind of like jumped out at me really was, and here this one. It's not so much it's an amazing film. It's more, it's quite possibly the most genius scheme ever.
Blair Witch.
Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
That movie was fucking genius. Maybe not the best movie in the world, but
no, I do agree. It's very fucking one of the best ideas anybody's ever come up with.
So, and that's like whether you like the movie or hate that movie. I personally, strictly in the sense of a movie, is a movie. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not like that great, but it is a fucking genius idea, though.
I think one thing they should have done is just to make it a little bit more creepy. In my opinion, I think this is more creepy, is to actually show a little bit of the monster at the end.
Or just have more scarier scenes, because there really is like there's only like a handful of scenes in it, and there's a lot of like build up and.
But I think since so many people for the longest time thought it was real,
because people are fucking retarded.
Yeah. Well, even as like a fifth grader, people will tell me about that movie like that sounds like so scary, and I was freaked out. Those Blair Witch. Then I stopped and thought about it for a second. There is no way they're gonna play a snuff film around movie theaters.
Yeah.
At fifth grade, I was able to put that together. I'm like, no, it's not. So then I watched the movie, like, that's still some scary stuff in it, but overall, yeah. And then you didn't see this one, but and it wasn't like a horror film found footage, but it was actually one I liked was Chronicle.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that one.
which that one was pretty good because it was almost kind of like a superhero found footage movie, which sounds lame, but it was more like just a very like it was more very dramatic. It felt kind of like a cross between Superman and Akira in a sense.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Because and the guy I even like saw listened to a podcast that the guy who wrote it was involved with. I mean, the guy that wrote it was in the podcast, and he said he did have some inspiration from Akira in that.
That's cool. I guess the only reason I just don't like the found footage, it's not really the concept of what it is. It's just I just do not like shaky cameras.
Well, the thing about like what you call it, Chronicle,
Mm-hmm.
was it was more of just like a drama that was about these kids just happen to come across that happen to get these powers. Two of them are popular, well-known kids. One of them is a nerdy kid, and he they become friends over this. One of the popular kids is the nerdy kid's cousin, and it takes place in Seattle, and they're just hanging out. They're using their powers, and it just kind of there's actually some parts. I'm not gonna lie, they're legitimately funny. You
Mm-hmm.
just see it's kind of the stuff you would do if you just got powers. You know what I mean? I guess
Yeah.
the one thing you can kind of complain about is there are moments you kind of forget you're watching a found footage movie, and they got to come up with reasons why they're walking around with a camera.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about it, and it's not hard to see. You can tell what's going on fine and easy. But then when you get to the end of the movie, at the very end of the movie is when all the action goes down. So if you're going to see it for an action film, you might be a little disappointed. But if you just go strictly in the sense of just seeing a science fiction film and trying something a little different, it's a pretty good flick.
Hmm.
So I'm just gonna review a movie that came out like a year ago.
I know. But yeah, that World War Z trailer, I don't know. It's those ones like I used to be the biggest zombie fan in the entire world, but I've just been so disappointed by every like TV show and movie that's not George A. Romero. Just about, it's just they always just seem to disappoint me over and over again. And like, yeah, the few things I ever liked is, I like Resident Evil the games, I like George A. Romero, and I like the Zombie Survival Guide. Those are the three that I thought that did it really well.
You like Zombieland?
Oh, I like Zombieland, but that's like a comedy, so it's like it's
Yeah.
I don't consider that the exact same. Like it's I don't look at it as
Mm.
like my sophisticated like zombie tale.
I thought maybe not so much in the
I mean, I think it's
it's
a well made.
sophisticated in a sense because it's more of like it's not literally like a deep, thought-provoking movie, but it's
Mhm.
more like a critique of the zombie genre,
Yeah.
really. And it's kind of like the idea of like, okay, all the people that because the thing, but the biggest problem with zombie films, I think, is the people we don't want to see or people we're stuck with for a while.
Well, because this is how I feel about zombie movies. Is a lot of times people make zombie movies the same way they make slasher movies. And now when you watch a slasher movie, you're cheering for Jason or Freddy. Those are the people you're cheering for. Now in a zombie movie, I want to see people fucking survive. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, people are gonna get killed along the way, but I don't want to just be there and be like, what's the point of watching a survival movie if you don't care about the people trying to survive?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's why I thought like the movie that people really love, but I really don't like whatsoever. Even though I like the director a lot, though, is the remake of Dawn of the Dead, because it just has like the worst characters in it. Like I don't give a fuck about any of the characters in it, excluding the one guy, the only smart guy. They lock him up the entire time is like that head security guard guy.
I
The,
still haven't watched the movie because I love the original too much.
you're just better off not watching. It's got okay. Like here's the thing, Zack Snyder, he does great directing. It's the guy that wrote it. Just like the story is just shit.
The unfortunate thing about the guy that directed it and the guy that wrote it is he can be a good writer because that's the guy
Yeah.
that wrote and directed Slither, and
Mm-hmm.
he did that movie Super, which I haven't seen, but he did
And he
that
did Lollipop Chainsaw Suda 51.
did that, and he's actually going to be doing the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which we'll find out how that comes along.
But just that Dawn of the Dead though is just for me I think that movie just I don't blame Zack Snyder. It's his first movie. He kind of had to go along with what it is, and he does a fine job of directing it. I mean, like visually it looks nice. It's just story wise it just sucks, and characters just like don't give me characters And then Vig Rhames is like people go, well, what about Vig Rhames? I'm like, well, yeah, but he's just kind of like the moron black guy that follows along everybody. I mean, yeah, he's a badass, but he's following these idiots. I mean, come on. If Ving Rhames just like went solo, it would have been a badass movie, maybe. But
He's supposed to be the black dude from the original Dawn of the Dead, I'm guessing, right? The cop from that one, because that guy
well,
was a fucking badass.
the characters aren't really anything the same as like the original Dawn of the Dead. It's more just they has the same concept of that they're in the mall.
Oh, okay,
Everything else is kind of different though.
okay, because that cop wasn't the black dude in
The
the
black guy, the other one's badass. The thing, like, my favorite things. This is one of my favorite things about the original Dawn of the Dead, is I love that like the main black guy and the main girl both fucking survive.
hmm
Because that's the thing, though. It's like most times like they would die, and that's one thing I always about Night of the Living Dead. It's like why does the poor black guy have to die? You know, he goes through all this shit just to get killed by a bunch of like redneck guys,
Yeah,
and
that's my only complaint about that
it's
one.
about my only complaint. It's just one of those ones like I don't know, because especially in the original Night of the Living Dead, like the acting is really fucking good in that movie. They always call that movie a B movie. That is not a fucking B movie whatsoever. The acting in that movie is better than tons of other movies. You can take a an A-list movie. Night of the Living Dead is way better acting.
Which I'm not trying to bring the
And
movie.
that's like a fucking drama in a sense when it really gets down to it, because it's all about how these characters react with each other.
I'm not trying to bring that movie down in any way because I do love that movie. But it's one of those things like I remember. I mean, I can't say I remember like I was fucking there, but I was watching some interview. I remember this interview with George A. Romero, and he said people were blown away by by Night of the Living Dead, saying, "Oh my God, it was a horror film. It was like very thought provoking. It was all about these different forms of political philosophy coming together." That's what that film really was like. And like there's the whole part of the black dude at the end. It's saying something about just like how the southern states at the time, like, actually no, I was just trying to say shit happens. you
Yeah.
know, he showed him. He's like, I wasn't trying to make a political statement. I just it kind of came out that way. But Dawn of the Dead had a political statement, which was people's materialism.
Yeah, the
and,
materialism of it.
yeah.
What fun too is like, because also with Night of the Living Dead, that was like the first time that, or that was one of the first movies to really actually have a black guy as the main character too.
Yeah.
So it's got that kind of trend sitting there.
No, and don't get me wrong, I do love Night of the Living Dead. I just don't like that ending.
No, it's just the ending, and they do this, and even the remake one too, the Tom Savini one. It's even
The girl survives at the end of that one, right?
yeah, but just the ending is still the black guy still dies.
I haven't seen the original. I haven't seen the remake.
You should see the remake. It's really cool. I like it
Okay.
a lot. What I really want them to do though is make a director's cut of that movie, because if you watch the special features on that one, Tom Savini, like, they had to cut that movie back because I think it was in that The problem about the '90s, I guess, it was really a family-friendly time period,
Very much so.
and so a lot of movies got edited back, like that one, Total Recall, and stuff like that. And I'd really like to see somebody go and go, fuck, put those, because like in the special features, you see some of the violence in it, you're like, well, that's really way more badass, because they really had to edit back that Night of the Living Dead.
That's
It's
what
like I would love to see, like, put those NC-17 versions out. Like, that's kind of the cool thing about nowadays is we get all these cool director's cuts and extended cuts. Like, I wish some people would go back on some of these other movies too that we know have been cut. We know were cut at the time, and come on,
I wonder how Cecil B. Demented got made back in the '90s, and all these movies are coming out.
that was made in 2000.
That was being. Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? Like, okay. But still, it's almost
That
like
movie's
a
actually
statement.
not that. That movie's actually not that violent though.
But it was almost kind of like the anti kind of like '90s movie because
It really is.
because it was saying how much I hated the commercialism of like '90s film.
Well, because like I guess the one sad thing is, like, even though I like a lot of '90s movies though, but '90s was like, it's just like the '60s. It was a very family friendly time, because '60s movies are very like that too. It's like you get all these really serious movies in the '40s and '50s, and then they become kind of like the like, oh, bring the whole family, kids.
My Fair Lady or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, you get stuff like that too. But not like saying there's not good movies in the '60s. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
There's a lot
yeah,
of still
there
sweet
is.
ones. But I mean, it just was that time where like the family stuff was almost put in the spotlight.
Well, that's when Spielberg and Scorsese came out and really blew people's fucking minds in the '60s.
Spielberg in the '60s.
Well,
And
yeah,
they w-
he was starting. He didn't really. He was
I
actually
say
no,
like because his movies are in the '70s.
primarily '70s, but he started in
I
the
say
60s.
Scorsese started like in the late '60s.
Scorsese did Easy Rider,
Yeah,
Bonnie and Clyde.
those are all like right there at like the '68, '69. That's when they started making all those sweet
Yeah.
ones, like Wild Bunch and all that stuff. That's what they had all those come out then.
I think Spielberg was making shorts around that time.
Yeah, well, I know he was in school at that time,
Yeah.
but well, Spielberg, he's like I always feel like he's the king of how to make like a really good PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he can make a really badass R-rated movie too. Because whenever he makes R, it's like fuck. Get ready for some serious shit. Spielberg's coming to town with an R movie.
Have you seen Munich yet?
I have that movie.
Oh, that movie's fucking badass.
Yeah, that was a cool. Dude, Lincoln actually came out today.
Lincoln came out.
I saw that.
I
Maybe we should go see it in the next couple days.
I'd be down for checking that out.
I like to see that. I really,
I'm guessing that's PG-13.
I think it is. It's probably
Yeah.
doesn't. I mean, like, Lincoln, he's fucking hookers and swearing up a storm.
He's almost kind of like the vampire where he just like pulls like a sawed-off shotgun out of his like top hat, like blows someone away or something.
This time
Like
it's
blows John Wilkes Booth away or something.
Lincoln's taking out the trash. But
And then there's
I guess we got really far off topic. I guess I don't even know how the fuck we got to Steven Spielberg.
well, like what we said. Well, like what we said though. Like when a movie, we said this before. When a movie's really good, it's like how much can you say about the movie?
Exactly. Well, I guess we can sum it up here. I'm getting kind of tired from lack of sleep. And 007 Skyfall, really badass. They've done a really good job. One of the best 007s in a long while.
Check it out when you
Very,
can.
yeah, check it out. World War Z, I don't know.
We'll see what happens. I mean,
If you got any opinions on that, send us them or send us those opinions our way. Send them at oldmanorange podcast@yahoo.com or send us any kind of email. That'd be fun.
yeah.
And well, check out the site. Give us some feedback. Give us some ratings on iTunes and stuff. And
We're on Facebook.
yeah, or anywhere for that matter. Well, I guess it's a good place to end it. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes,
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
and we will see you some other time.
Good night.